The warning. The grand assembly hall of the Galactic Concordance stretched vast and gleaming, its crystalline walls reflecting the light of 1,000 worlds. Representatives from 47 species sat in their designated sections, their various forms creating a tapestry of galactic diversity. But today the usual diplomatic calm had shattered like fragile glass. Ambassador Kelrix of the Thaldorian Confederation stood at the entrance, his aged form trembling slightly. His once bright silver skin had dulled to a weathered gray, and the ceremonial scars marking his face told stories of battles fought long ago. He had not entered these halls in 15 years, preferring the quiet solitude of his homeworld's northern provinces. Yet here he stood, having traveled 6 weeks through hyperspace to deliver a message he prayed would be heard. The call for war inside the chamber. Chancellor Vorath of the Kryn Dominion was speaking, his 3 voices harmonizing in aggressive unity. The humans had crossed too many boundaries, he declared. Their colony ships pushed into disputed territories. Their traders ignored established customs. Their military vessels patrolled regions they had no right to claim. Worst of all, they did it with smiles, with polite words, with an infuriating confidence that suggested they feared nothing. The time has come, Vorath announced, his chest swelling with righteous anger, to teach these newcomers the order of our galaxy. A coordinated strike on their outer colonies will demonstrate our resolve. They will learn to respect the boundaries set by civilizations far older than their brief existence. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. The Kryn had always been aggressive, but they were not alone in their frustration. The humans had arrived in galactic society only 60 years ago, yet they acted as if they owned the stars themselves. Their expansion was relentless, their confidence unshakable. Their refusal to bow to established powers deeply irritating to species who had maintained order for millennia. An unexpected voice. The massive doors swung open with a sound that echoed like thunder. Every head turned as Kelrix entered, his walking staff clicking against the polished floor. The Thaldorian moved slowly, deliberately, each step measured and heavy with purpose. Security officers moved to intercept him. But Speaker Minera, the session's moderator, raised one delicate hand to stop them. Ambassador Kelrix, Minera said, her voice carrying the musical quality of her species. This is a closed military planning session. Your presence here is highly irregular. Irregular, Kelrix repeated, his voice rough with age and emotion. You plan to attack humanity, and you call my presence irregular? He laughed, a bitter sound that held no humor. I came because I must, because I fought beside them once and I know what you are about to unleash. Chancellor Vorath's 3 voices merged into a sneer. Your past service is respected, Ambassador, but this is a military matter. The humans are not the warriors you remember from your youth. They are merchants and colonists playing at power. Playing? Kelrix's eyes blazed with an intensity that made several delegates shift uncomfortably. You think they play? Let me tell you about playing. Let me tell you what I learned 40 years ago when the Void Plague came. The memory of the plague. The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew of the Void Plague, the crystalline infection that had swept through the outer rim, turning living tissue into lifeless mineral. Entire worlds had been lost. Billions had died. It remained the worst catastrophe in recorded galactic history. The plague struck my homeworld first, Kelrix continued, moving toward the center of the chamber. Our scientists were helpless. Our military could do nothing against an enemy that existed in the very air we breathed. Within weeks, 20 million Thaldorians had crystallized. Our government prepared evacuation protocols ready to abandon our ancestral home forever. He paused, his gaze sweeping across the assembled faces. The humans had been part of galactic society for only 20 years. They had 3 colonies, a small fleet, and technology we considered primitive. When they heard about the plague, do you know what they did? No one answered. The silence stretched, heavy and expectant. They volunteered, Kelrix said softly. Every single human research vessel, every medical ship, every scientist who could be spared. They came to Thaldor Prime, to a plague world where death was certain, and they said they would help. The human solution. We refused them at first, Kelrix admitted, shame coloring his voice. We were arrogant. We told them our finest minds had failed. So what could these newcomers possibly offer? But they came anyway. They set up laboratories in orbit, worked in contaminated zones, exposed themselves to the plague deliberately to study its effects. He moved to the chamber's central display, activating a holographic projection with a gesture. Images appeared showing the crystalline plague in its terrifying beauty. Humans in protective suits working frantically. Research stations orbiting a dying world. Dr. Sarah Chen led their research team, Kelrick said, his voice catching slightly. She was young, brilliant, and absolutely fearless. She discovered that the plague was not biological but technological. Nanomachines left over from some ancient war, still following programming written eons ago. Understanding it required thinking in ways we had never considered. Approaching the problem from angles our rigid scientific methods had missed. The hologram shifted, showing complex mathematical formulas and quantum models that had been revolutionary for their time. The humans found the solution in 37 days, Kelricks continued, a harmonic frequency that disrupted the nanomachine's coordination. But implementing it required someone to enter the plague's epicenter, the crystallized heart of our capital city, and manually activate a resonance device. The radiation levels were fatal. Whoever went in would have perhaps 10 minutes before their suit failed. The price of salvation, the chamber remained absolutely still. Even Chancellor Vorath had stopped his aggressive posturing, listening despite himself. Dr. Chen volunteered immediately, Kelrick said, along with 6 other humans. They drew lots to see who would go. When Chen won, she smiled. She actually smiled and said she was lucky to die on an alien world, for aliens she barely knew, to stop a plague that had never touched her own people. The hologram showed a recording from that day, a young human woman in a bulky protective suit, checking her equipment one final time. Her face was visible through the helmet's faceplate, calm and determined. I was there when she entered the epicenter, Kelrick said, his voice breaking. I was part of the military escort that took her as far as we could go. Before she went in, she turned to me and said, "Take care of them, Ambassador. All the people we're saving today. Make sure they live good lives." Then she walked into hell itself. The recording showed Chen moving through streets of crystallized buildings, past frozen Thaldorians caught mid-stride, their bodies transformed into grotesque statues. She reached the device placement point, began the activation sequence. The radiation counter on her suit climbed higher and higher. She completed the activation with 40 seconds to spare. Kelrick said quietly. The harmonic pulse spread across Thaldor Prime in waves, shattering the nanomachines, stopping the plague instantly. 16 million Thaldorians who would have died in the next week survived because of her. The hologram showed Chen collapsing, her suit failing, radiation poisoning taking its rapid toll. But even then, even dying, she was speaking into her communicator, giving her final research notes, ensuring that other worlds threatened by the plague could be saved. The human way. She died 3 minutes later, Kelrick said. But before she did, she said something I have never forgotten. She said, "This is what we do. This is what humans are for. We solve the impossible problems, we pay the terrible prices, and we do it gladly because someone has to." He turned to face Chancellor Vorath directly. 6 other humans died that month, working on contaminated worlds, pushing the boundaries of safety to save species they barely knew. Humanity lost a generation of their best scientists to the Void Plague crisis, and they never asked for payment. They never demanded territory or concessions. They never even asked us to remember them. That was 40 years ago, Vorath said, though his voices lacked their earlier certainty. These humans are different. They are expansionists now, aggressive, unwilling to respect our boundaries. No, Kelrick said sharply. You are wrong. These are the same humans. The same species that will sacrifice everything for what they believe is right. You see their expansion and call it aggression. I see a species that has learned one terrible lesson. If you want to protect what you love, you must be strong enough that no one dares threaten it. The terrible truth. Kelricks moved closer to the Chancellor, his aged form somehow intimidating despite its frailty. You think you understand war? You think your fleets and your weapons make you powerful? But war is not what you believe it to be. War is not about who has the most ships or the biggest guns. War is about will. War is about who is willing to pay the highest price. And humans, Chancellor, humans have a relationship with death that should terrify you. He gestured to the still-playing hologram, where Chen's final moments looped endlessly. They do not fear dying. They fear failing. They fear letting others down. They fear not doing enough. Give them a reason to fight, truly fight, and you will discover something our galaxy has tried very hard to forget. And what is that? Asked Speaker Minara, her musical voice barely a whisper. That humanity is not good at war because they practice it, Kelrick said. They are good at war because they are very, very bad at giving up. Every human defeat in history is temporary. Every human loss is fuel for their determination. You cannot beat them by winning battles. You can only beat them by convincing them to stop fighting. And if you attack their colonies, if you kill their civilians, you will give them a reason to never, ever stop. The Vote Chancellor Vorath's three voices spoke in uncertain harmony. You ask us to fear a species because they are determined. Determination is not enough against superior firepower. The Void Plague had superior firepower, Kelrick said quietly. It killed billions. Where is it now? Dead. Extinct. Erased from existence because humans decided it needed to end. They hunted down every trace of those ancient nanomachines across 40 star systems. It took them 15 years, cost them thousands more lives, but they did it. Because they had decided. He turned to address the entire assembly. I came here to warn you. To beg you to reconsider. The humans are not your enemies unless you make them so. Their expansion is not aggression, it is hope. They believe the galaxy is big enough for everyone. They believe cooperation is better than conflict. But if you attack them, if you strike first, you will teach them that they were wrong. You will teach them that the galaxy is not safe, that their colonies are not secure, that their children are not protected. His voice grew harder, colder, and when humans learn they are not safe, they do not hide. They do not retreat. They do not negotiate. They eliminate the threat, completely, permanently, without mercy or hesitation. The chamber erupted in argument. Voices called out in dozens of languages, translators struggling to keep pace. Some delegates supported Kelrick's warning. Others dismissed it as the ramblings of a sentimental old veteran. Chancellor Vorath called for order, then called for a vote. The point of no return. The vote proceeded with mechanical efficiency. Species by species, the delegates made their choice. Strike or stand down. Teach the humans a lesson or let their expansion continue unchecked. When the counting finished, the result was clear. 31 species voted for military action, only 16 against. Speaker Minara's voice carried across the suddenly quiet chamber. The resolution passes. The Galactic Concordance authorizes a coordinated strike on human outer colonies. Military command will coordinate the details. Kelrick stood silent for a long moment, his silver skin seeming to dim further. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely audible. I tried. Dr. Chen, I tried to repay the debt. I tried to save them from themselves. He turned toward the exit, his staff clicking against the floor with each slow step. At the doorway, he paused and looked back one final time. I will deliver your declaration of war to Earth personally. It is the least I can do. I will look into human eyes and tell them that the galaxy has decided to attack them. And when they ask me why, I will tell them the truth. Because you were successful, because you were confident, because you refused to be small. His next words fell like stones into still water. And then I will leave Earth as quickly as possible. Because I fought beside humans once. I know what comes next. And I do not want to be anywhere near your fleets when humanity stops being patient and remembers how to be terrifying. The door closed behind him, sealing with a soft hiss that sounded like a tomb closing. In the chamber, the delegates began discussing fleet deployments, target priorities, and expected timelines. None of them noticed Speaker Minara's hands trembling slightly as she reviewed the vote totals. None of them saw Chancellor Vorath's three voices fall briefly out of harmony as doubt flickered across his face. The decision was made. The galaxy would teach humanity a lesson, and Ambassador Kelrick, veteran of the Void Plague Wars, friend to the fallen Dr. Sarah Chen, would carry the news to Earth and hope that somehow, impossibly, this would not end the way he feared. But in his hearts, all three of them, he already knew the truth. The galaxy had just made the worst mistake in its long history. They had disturbed the Earthborn, and nothing would ever be the same again. The reckoning Ambassador Kelrick's ship arrived at Earth 3 weeks after the vote. He had traveled alone, refusing escort, refusing ceremony. This was not a diplomatic mission. This was a mercy, a final gift to a species he had once fought beside. He would deliver the war declaration personally, face to face, as honor demanded. The human defense perimeter detected him immediately. Within minutes, his communication console lit up with incoming messages. To his surprise, they granted him passage without question. providing coordinates for a landing site in Geneva, where the Terran Diplomatic Corps maintained its headquarters. The messenger arrives. The landing pad was simple, functional, lacking the grand architecture most species used for receiving foreign dignitaries. A single human waited for him, a woman in her 50s with gray-streaked hair and eyes that seemed to look through him rather than at him. "Ambassador Kelrix," she said, extending her hand in the human gesture of greeting. "I am Director Elizabeth Morrison, Terran Diplomatic Corps. We have been expecting you." Kelrix took her hand carefully, noting the strength in her grip despite her age. "You know why I have come?" "We can guess," Morrison said, her expression unreadable. "Please follow me. There are people who need to hear what you have to say." She led him through corridors that hummed with quiet activity. Humans moved with purpose, their faces serious but not panicked. Kelrix noticed military personnel mixed with civilians, scientists consulting with soldiers, a coordination that spoke of careful preparation. They entered a conference room where 5 humans waited. Morrison made introductions. Admiral James Carter, head of Terran Defense Forces, Dr. Raymond Park, Chief Science Advisor, General Maria Okonkwo, Strategic Operations, and 2 others whose titles Kelrix barely registered. All of them watched him with the same penetrating gaze Morrison had shown. "Ambassador," Admiral Carter said, gesturing to a seat. "Please tell us what the Concordance has decided." The declaration. Kelrix sat slowly, his aged body protesting the journey's toll. He looked at each human face, seeing in them echoes of Dr. Chen, of the researchers who had died saving his world, of the soldiers who had sung songs while holding impossible lines. "The Galactic Concordance has voted for military action against human colonies," he said, the words heavy as lead. 31 species have agreed to a coordinated strike. They plan to attack your outer settlements, New Harmony, Perseverance Station, and Journey's End. The goal is to demonstrate that humanity must respect established boundaries and acknowledge the authority of older civilizations. Silence filled the room. Kelrix expected anger, demands, threats. Instead, the humans simply looked at one another, something passing between them that needed no words. "When?" General Okonkwo asked, her voice calm. "The fleet assembles in 10 days. They will strike in 12. Numbers? Approximately 800 warships from 6 primary species. The Kryn Dominion leads the coalition. Chancellor Vorath commands the operation." Dr. Park leaned forward, his fingers steepled. "Vorath? He is the one who pushed for this, yes?" Kelrix nodded. "He believes humans have grown too bold, too confident. He thinks a single demonstration of force will make you more compliant." "Compliant," Admiral Carter repeated, a strange smile touching his lips. "I see." He looked to Director Morrison. "We should probably tell him." "Tell me what?" Kelrix asked, confusion mixing with dread. The revelation. Morrison activated a holographic display that filled the center of the room. Star charts appeared, showing human territory and surrounding space. Red markers indicated the 3 colonies Vorath planned to attack. "Ambassador," Morrison began, "how much do you know about human colonization patterns?" "Only what public records show." "You have established 47 colonies across 12 systems over the past 60 years. "Public records," Dr. Park said almost gently. "Yes, public records show 47 colonies." He touched the display, and suddenly hundreds of new markers appeared, filling the hologram with blue dots that spread like a constellation across previously empty space. Kelrix felt his 3 hearts stutter. What is this?" "The truth," Admiral Carter said. "We have 193 colonies, Ambassador. 60 of them are classified, hidden, known only to Terran Defense Forces. We learned something 40 years ago during the Void Plague crisis. We learned that survival requires preparation. It requires backups. It requires never putting all your species in one basket." Morrison continued, her voice steady and professional. "New Harmony, Perseverance Station, and Journey's End are real colonies with real populations. But for the past 6 months, since we detected coalition fleet movements and intercepted certain concerning communications, we have been quietly evacuating them." "Evacuating?" Kelrix whispered. 3 million people relocated to classified settlements," General Okonkwo confirmed. "The colonies Vorath plans to attack are now defended by automated systems and volunteer military personnel. Approximately 5,000 soldiers who understand what they signed up for." The strategy unfolds. Kelrick stared at the hologram, his mind struggling to process what he was hearing. You knew they were coming. We suspected, Dr. Park corrected. Your concordance is not as secure as it believes. We have friends among the 16 species who voted against this action. We have monitoring stations that detected fleet movements. We have analysts who recognize the pattern. Humans are very good at seeing threats before they arrive. But why? Kelrick asked, desperation creeping into his voice. Why not prevent this? Why not negotiate? Why not bow? Admiral Carter finished. Because we tried that once, Ambassador. Before your time, before we joined Galactic Society, we tried being small and grateful and non-threatening, and we learned that predators do not respect submission. They only respect strength. Morrison deactivated the hologram and looked directly at Kelrick. We do not want war. We never want war, but if the concordance insists on teaching us a lesson, then we will be excellent students, and when class is over, everyone will remember what they learned. The door opened and another human entered, a young man in military uniform carrying data tablets. Ma'am, confirmation from all 3 sites. Civilian evacuation is complete. Defensive systems are active. Volunteer units are in position. Thank you, Lieutenant. Morrison took the tablets, reviewed them briefly, then set them aside. Ambassador Kelrick, I want you to understand something. The 5,000 soldiers waiting at those colonies are not victims. They are not sacrifices. They are teachers. The terrible mathematics doctor. Park stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city beyond. During the Void Plague crisis, Dr. Chen taught us something important about mathematics. She showed us that sometimes, the equation that saves the most lives is not the one that saves the most lives today. Sometimes you have to think longer, think bigger. Think about what equation changes everything that comes after. He turned back to face Kelrick. If we evacuate those colonies and hide, Vorath wins. He learns that threats work. In 5 years, 10 years, he will do it again. Other species will do it too because humans can be pushed around. The mathematics of that future costs millions of human lives over decades. But if we stand and fight, General Okonkwo continued, if we demonstrate that attacking humans is expensive, painful, and ultimately futile, then we change the equation. We make future attacks unthinkable. The mathematics of that future saves millions of lives by preventing wars that never happen. Admiral Carter pulled up a new display, showing fleet formations and probability matrices. Our 5,000 volunteers will face 800 warships. They will lose. They know it, but they will make Vorath pay for every meter of ground, every second of combat. They will demonstrate that humans do not surrender, do not retreat, and do not break. And when it is over, when Vorath thinks he has won, that is when we teach the real lesson, Morrison finished. Kelrick felt cold despite the room's comfortable temperature. What have you done? The hidden network Morrison reactivated the hologram, but this time it showed different markers, massive structures floating in deep space, hidden among asteroid fields and nebulae, scattered across human territory like silent sentinels. Project Sentinel, Admiral Carter said quietly. We began construction 30 years ago. Mobile defense platforms with firepower equivalent to a battleship squadron each. We have 68 of them, Ambassador. 68 platforms that the Concordance knows nothing about. Positioned to defend our classified colonies and provide rapid response anywhere in human space. Dr. Park added technical details with the calm precision of a scientist discussing weather patterns. Each platform is powered by fusion cores that can sustain combat operations for months. Railguns with effective range of 300,000 kilometers. Missile batteries carrying warheads that can crack a planet's crust. Point defense systems that can track and eliminate thousands of incoming projectiles simultaneously. We also have the fleet, General Okonkwo said, almost casually. Public records show we have 300 capital ships. Actual numbers are closer to 900. Turns out humans are very good at building things quickly when we are motivated. Kelrick's voice came out as a whisper. 900 ships? We learned from the Void Plague, Morrison said, her eyes distant with memory. We learned that when crisis comes, when death arrives, having too much preparation is better than having too little. We lost thousands of our best people saving galactic civilization. We swore we would never be that vulnerable again. The long-game Admiral Carter stood and walked to stand beside Kelrick, his presence oddly comforting despite the terrible revelations. Ambassador, I want you to understand our strategy. When Vorath attacks those colonies, we will let him take them. Our volunteers will fight hard, make him pay, but ultimately they will lose. Vorath will celebrate his victory. The Concordance will congratulate itself on teaching humans a lesson. And then, Kelrix asked, though he feared the answer. Then we wait, General Okonkwo said. 24 hours. Long enough for Vorath to consolidate his forces. Long enough for him to feel secure. And then our hidden fleet strikes every single one of his ships simultaneously. Not to disable them. Not to capture them. To destroy them completely. Dr. Park's voice was soft but relentless. 68 Sentinel platforms and 900 warships against Vorath's 800. The mathematics are simple. He will lose 90% of his fleet in the first 6 hours. The survivors will be permitted to flee, to carry the message back to the Concordance. What message? Kelrix asked, though he already knew. Morrison's expression was carved from stone. That humanity is not weak, that we do not forget, that we gave peace a chance, offered cooperation and friendship, and the galaxy responded with violence. So now the galaxy gets to see what humans do when peace fails. The mercy. This is madness, Kelrix said, standing abruptly. You will start a war that could consume the entire galaxy. Species will take sides. Billions could die. No, Admiral Carter said firmly. We will end a war before it truly begins. Vorath attacked because he thought we were weak. We will prove we are strong. The Concordance will learn that humans are not prey, and then, Ambassador, we will offer peace. Not as supplicants, not as subordinates, but as equals who have demonstrated we cannot be pushed around. Morrison touched Kelrix's arm gently. We do not want to destroy the Concordance. We do not want to conquer anyone. We want to live in peace, raise our children, explore the stars, and help where we can. But we will not do it on our knees. We will not bow to bullies. And we will not let anyone believe that human lives are cheap, or that human colonies can be attacked without consequences. You are forcing them to respect you through fear, Kelrix said. No, Dr. Park corrected. We are teaching them to respect us through understanding. Fear fades. Understanding lasts. After this, every species in the Concordance will understand exactly what it means to attack humanity. And understanding that, they will choose not to. That is not fear. That is wisdom. The Choice General Okonkwo moved to stand before Kelrix, her eyes meeting his directly. Ambassador, we did not tell you all of this to intimidate you. We told you because we need you. You fought beside humans once. You know who we are. You understand that we do what we must, not what we want. What do you need from me? Kelrix asked wearily. After the battle, Morrison said. After Vorath's fleet is destroyed, we need someone to speak for us at the Concordance. Someone who can explain what happened and why. Someone who can help negotiate the peace that follows. You want me to defend your actions? We want you to tell the truth, Admiral Carter said. Tell them we warned them. Tell them we gave them every chance. Tell them we did not want this. And tell them that if they attack us again, the response will be even more decisive. Kelrix looked at each human face, seeing determination mixed with regret, strength tempered by sadness. These were not monsters. They were not conquerors. They were survivors doing what survivors do, ensuring that threats were answered, that weakness was not rewarded, that their children would grow up safe. Dr. Chen would be proud of you, he said finally, and heartbroken. She died hoping humans would never need to be terrible again. We die every day hoping the same thing, Morrison said softly. But hope does not stop warships. Hope does not protect colonies. Hope is not a strategy. So we prepare, we plan, and when forced, we act. The fleet assembles 10 days later. Supreme Commander Varric of the Kryn Dominion stood on the bridge of his flagship Dominance, watching his coalition fleet move into formation. 800 warships from 6 species, representing the combined military might of the Concordance's most powerful members. It was glorious, overwhelming, unstoppable. All ships report ready, his tactical officer announced. Target coordinates locked. Weapon systems active. Varric allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. This would be quick and clean. The humans would see their colonies fall, recognize their powerlessness, and accept the Concordance's authority. Chancellor Vorath had been right. Sometimes younger species needed harsh lessons. Begin the attack, Varric ordered. The fleet surged forward, entering human space with weapons firing. The 3 target colonies appeared on tactical displays, their defenses activating immediately. Fighters launched, missile platforms fired, Energy weapons blazed across the void. It was impressive for such a young species, Varric admitted. The humans fought with skill and determination, but determination alone could not stop 800 warships. The defenses fell one by one. The colony's orbital stations exploded in brilliant flashes. Ground installations were systematically eliminated. Minimal resistance remaining, the tactical officer reported. Estimated time to complete victory 4 hours. Excellent, Varric said. Continue the assault. No mercy. What he did not know, what his sensors could not detect, was that in deep space around him 68 massive platforms had just activated their weapon systems. What he did not realize was that 900 human warships had emerged from hyperspace at carefully calculated coordinates, surrounding his fleet in a perfect sphere of death. The reckoning begins. The human volunteers on the colonies fought for 6 hours, just as their orders specified. They made Varric's forces pay for every victory, demonstrated human courage and skill, and died with honor. When the last defense fell silent, Varric broadcast his victory to the Concordance. The operation is complete, he announced proudly. 3 human colonies have fallen. Our casualties were minimal. The humans have been taught their lesson. 24 hours later, as his fleet regrouped and his crews celebrated, the sensor alarms began screaming. Contacts appeared on every display, hundreds of them, thousands of weapon locks converging on his position. What? Varric began, and then the universe exploded. Sentinel platforms fired their railguns, launching projectiles that crossed hundreds of thousands of kilometers in seconds. Human warships unleashed missile barrages that darkened space with their numbers. Energy weapons cut through shields like paper, tearing into hulls, igniting fuel reserves, turning proud warships into expanding clouds of debris. Varric's fleet tried to respond, but they were surrounded, outnumbered, and caught completely by surprise. Ships exploded before they could return fire. Those that managed to shoot hit nothing, their targeting systems overwhelmed by electronic warfare that turned their sensors blind. Retreat, Varric screamed. All ships, emergency hyperspace jump now. Some ships escaped, perhaps 80 out of 800, fleeing in random directions with human fighters pursuing them to the edge of weapon range. The rest died in the following hours, methodically eliminated by human forces that showed the same relentless efficiency Dr. Chen had once demonstrated in her laboratory. The ambassador returns. When the battle ended, when the void was filled with cooling wreckage and the screams of dying crews had faded to silence, a single human ship approached the Concordance homeworld. Ambassador Kelrix was aboard, carrying a message from humanity. The Concordance Council gathered in emergency session, their earlier confidence replaced by shock and horror. Chancellor Vorath's 3 voices spoke in discordant chaos. Unable to harmonize in the face of catastrophe, Kelrix entered the chamber alone, his aged form seeming stronger somehow, as if purpose had renewed his strength. He moved to the center of the hall and activated a holographic recording. Director Morrison's face appeared, her expression calm and professional. To the Galactic Concordance, Morrison began. You attacked our colonies without declaration, without negotiation, without mercy. You killed our people to teach us a lesson about power. We trust you have learned something about power in return. The hologram shifted, showing footage of the battle, the devastating ambush, the systematic destruction of the coalition fleet, the cold, calculated efficiency of human warfare. We did not want this, Morrison continued. We sought only to live in peace, to explore, to grow, to contribute to galactic civilization. You decided that was not acceptable. You decided we needed to be controlled, diminished, made fearful, so we taught you a different lesson. Her image leaned forward, her eyes seeming to look directly at each council member. Humanity will not bow. We will not accept second-class status. We will not allow our colonies to be attacked without consequence. But we also will not pursue vengeance beyond what justice requires. Your attacking fleet has been destroyed. Consider that payment for the lives you took. We are even. The new understanding. However, Morrison said, her voice hardening, let this be clearly understood by all species. Earth and her colonies are under human protection. Any future attack will be met with overwhelming force. We have capabilities you never suspected, resources you never imagined, determination you cannot comprehend. Test us again and we will not stop with destroying your fleets. We will come to your homeworlds and teach you what total war truly means. The hologram paused, Morrison's expression softening slightly. Or you can choose peace. Real peace, not the peace of submission, but the peace of equals. We remain willing to negotiate, to cooperate, to contribute to galactic civilization, but we will do so standing tall, not kneeling. The choice is yours. The image faded. Silence filled the chamber, heavy as a collapsing star. Finally, Speaker Minara's musical voice broke the quiet. Ambassador Kelrix, humanity sends you as their messenger. What counsel do you offer? Kelrix looked around the chamber, seeing fear and anger and shock on alien faces. He thought of Dr. Chen walking into certain death with a smile. He thought of the 5,000 volunteers who had died holding those colonies. He thought of the terrible beauty of human determination, that awful capacity to pay any price for what they believed was right.